yo. Oh, okay. That was some nice intro music. Welcome, everyone. Please continue to represent what city or state you're hailing from in the chat. And welcome. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for our From Stress to Safety workshop, Finding Calm in the Midst of Challenges. My name is Amina, and I'm a social worker and maternal mental health clinician. And it is my pleasure to serve as your moderator for this evening. Tonight's webinar is presented by Birthing the Magic Collaborative as part of Maternal Mental Health Week. Whether you're joining us as Black Maternal Mental Health Week, whether you're joining us as a mother, a parent, a caregiver, a helping professional, or someone who is simply just wanting to better understand how stress affects our well-being, we're so glad that you are here today. Stress is something that we all experience, but it doesn't have to define how we move through our lives. So tonight's conversation invites us to think about what it means to create moments of safety, regulation, and restoration, even in the midst of life's inevitable challenges. So since today's workshop is about moving from stress to safety, and before we begin, I'd like to invite everyone to take a brief moment to arrive fully in this space. And if you are comfortable doing so, gently place both feet on the floor or notice whatever is supporting your body right now. The floor, the seat, your couch. And take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and a slow breath out. You can try that again. Slow, deep breath in through your nose. And as you breathe, simply notice one thing that you can see, one thing that you can hear, and one place in your body that feels supported. Taking a slow, deep breath in through your nose and a slow breath out through your mouth. There's nothing that you need to fix or change. in this moment, just allow yourself to arrive exactly as you are. And thank you all for taking that moment with me. It is now my pleasure to introduce our presenter for this evening. Dr. Trinisia Brooks is the founder and principal consultant of Your Advocate Consulting, where she partners with schools, organizations, and communities to strengthen leadership, wellness, and engagement through healing-centered and trauma-informed practices. She is a licensed qualified administrator of the Intercultural Development Inventory, a master trainer in adverse childhood experiences, and an advocate practitioner in mind-body medicine. Her work is grounded in helping individuals and communities move beyond simply surviving toward lives rooted in wellness, purpose, and meaningful connection. As one of the founding members of Mental Health Matters, Dr. Brooks is deeply committed to advancing mental wellness, including maternal mental health and community healing. She earned her doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Southern Indiana, where she was recognized as the most distinguished graduate. Her work beautifully reflects tonight's theme of moving from stress to safety, and we are honored to have her with us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Trinisia Brooks. Yes, I see the hand claps. Give it up.
Thank you, Amina. Hello, everyone. All right, I appreciate that introduction. It always makes me feel a little blah, but that's okay. Um, so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. As I navigate technology and Amina, you can see my screen, correct?
I can see it clearly.
All right.
Mhm.
All righty. So again, my name is Dr. Trinisha Brooks. I really do consider myself more of a healing centered engagement practitioner. And because that is the outcome that we are trying to achieve in the various capacities as it pertains to mental health wellness. So, the title of my presentation is From Stress to Safety Finding Calm in the Midst of Challenges. So, just some housekeeping. The goal is for us to do some reflection. Amina has somewhat introduced me, which I appreciate. We'll talk a little bit about the science of stress, what happens when we experience stress. I'll provide some data and statistics. We'll talk a little bit about the framework and I'll provide some practical strategies that we can utilize. And then there will be time for closing reflections. So, Amina has already asked you all where you're from. And I definitely can tell that Indiana is in the building and you all are representing. So thank you so much. I noticed that Evansville is in the building, Newburgh, North Carolina, Louisiana. I believe someone from Arizona. And so if you have yet to say where you're from, please do so at this time. I am located in Evansville, Indiana. And so it is not surprising that there is an outpouring of support on the call from Indiana. I definitely appreciate it. So again, if you haven't shared in the chat where you're from, please do so at this time. So Amina has provided an int oops, I'm sorry. She provided an introduction and I do want to level set because I want to ensure that um, you all are relatable to me as a mother, as an individual in the work that I do. You probably are already feeling stressed just by looking at the screen and all the things that I am involved in. I first want to say that I am a mother, a proud mother of three children. I have a 17-year-old senior, I have an 11-year-old sixth grader, and I have a 4-year-old son. And they are my pride and joy and the reason that I do what I do every single day. Um, I am involved in a lot of different boards in the community. As you can tell, mental health matters. I'm a part of the YWCA, Big Brother, Big Sister. I'm a part of a state board, which is the Indiana After School Network. I actually work full time in education in a Evansville Vanderburgh School Corporation, and it's a P12. It's the third largest school district in Indiana. I worked in the buildings, traveling as social emotional learning specialist, working with youth with in general in both special education, conducting functional behavior assessments, determining what the root causes of social emotional issues are. And I've been at the district now going into my fifth year as a district administrator. I'm the director of community schools and family engagement. And so I wanted to showcase that I do a lot of different things in the community. And also I work in education. My doctorate is in educational leadership, and it's all in community-based work in schools and communities. And so um, the picture that you see is with me and the mayor in 2024. I received the highest award of the night. It's the Sadell Berger Award from the mayor. She's the first African American mayor in Evansville, Indiana. And so for me to receive the Sadell Berger, which is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award, it was a huge honor for a multitude of reasons, and a huge honor to receive it from the first African American female mayor in the history of Evansville. And also, I have my own consulting practice, which is Your Advocate Consulting. So, again, I wanted to just level set, let you all know that I am a mother and I do a lot of different things in the community, and I am working as well full time. And so there has been some seasons in my life where I have been very focused on everyone else, and I have forgotten to care for Trinicia. And so, what if one of the greatest gifts that we give our children is not perfection, but our well-being? So that's something that I am practicing and working through every single day. And I wanted to make that connection with you all as viewers as we move throughout the presentation today. And so, Amina, this is where you'll have to help because I really can't see the chat. But today, I would love for there to be some reflective participation because the goal is really for us to understand that stress is normal, but chronic and unmanaged stress can affect both maternal and infant health. And so your engagement will definitely give me energy and all the things that I need to carry on this presentation. Calm my amygdala, which we'll talk a little bit more about that here. But when you hear the word stress, what is the first word that comes to mind? If you don't mind putting that in the chat. And Amina, you can let me know what they're saying.
Yep. We have tension, chaos, no words, but just an extended exhale. I see anxiety, pressure, overwhelmed, harmful, no balance, not doing the best, frustration, exhaustion, burnout.
Mm, mm,
Someone says, why? Why,
mm.
why stress? Prayer, fight or flight.
We'll talk about that here shortly.
Mhm.
Awesome.
And
Thank
someone
you all so
mentions
much.
dissociation. All right.
You all get an A plus plus plus. I'm only giving out A pluses in this course, so good job, everyone. So we're going to talk a little bit about the science of stress and what happens when we experience stress. So first, I want to just start out with a clinical definition of stress. So stress can be defined as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Stress is a natural human response that prompts us to address challenges and threats in our lives. So that is the clinical definition from the World Health Organization. And you'll notice that I've cited my research as well. And always trying to cite within the last 5 to 10 years so it's the latest research that you will see. So some examples of stress, some of the things that you all just put in the chat. So stress is our body's natural response to stress. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you're experiencing irritability, difficulty concentrating, if you're having some racing thoughts, anxiety, and depression, all of those are examples of just the body responding to stress. As far as caregivers, I want to ensure that the conversation we have is aligned to maternal and infant health, and so there will always be examples as we move throughout the presentation. But caregivers, some examples of stress may be pregnancy complications, sleep deprivation, breastfeeding challenges, financial concerns, lack of support, and returning to work. And as you can see, this was cited by the American Psychiatric Association and the World Health Organization. So someone mentioned fight, flight, or freeze earlier. Um, Unfortunately, I can't see you all, but that's okay because I want you all to be as engaged as possible. Um, and some of my Evansville people have been a part of some of these exercises, but I think it's important. So if you are able to, I would like for you to take your right hand and I want you to just basically model what I'm doing and just put your right hand like in the back of your head. That is called your amygdala. So your amygdala is the smoke alarm system. It's your emotional part of your brain, and it's there to keep you safe. It protects you from danger, and when it's overactive, when you experience things like trauma and stress, um, that's when you go offline. So your amygdala is your emotional brain. When your amygdala is not calm, everything else in your brain and your body is offline. So if you take your hand, if you put it right here, like the top of your head, or the side of your head, this is your hippocampus. This is where the memory, um, basically your memory center. And it's a filing cabinet. And so this is where you store information. And when you're stressed, when your amygdala, which is your emotional part of your brain, when it's stressed and offline, then it makes your memory, which is your hippocampus, makes you harder to access your hippocampus. Everybody's following me? And then if you take your right hand, if you're able to, put it right here in the front of your head. This is called your prefrontal cortex. This is the brain CEO. And you can put your hand down. But this is where all the thinking and the decision making happens. That's where the problem solving happens. But the thing about it, for you all who are listening, when your amygdala, which is your emotional brain, when it is stressed from what for whatever reason, relationships or finances or kids, or if you're like me, I'm an Uber driver with my kids and taking them to sports and here and various places. When your amygdala is not calm, you are unable to access your prefrontal cortex, which is where you make logical decisions. Your executive functioning skills are also right there with your prefrontal cortex. So the moral of the story is we want to ensure that our amygdala, which is the emotional part of your brain, is in a calm place so that you can access your hippocampus, which is your memory, and make decisions as it transfers to the front, which is your prefrontal cortex. And so I hope that that made sense to you all. The fight, flight, or freeze when we're overwhelmed, to give you an example, we may become angry, which is you fight, and avoid people. And also, you may avoid people, which is flight. Or if you're feeling stuck, that means you may freeze. And so, when you are experiencing high levels of stress, your amygdala does not like that, and it throws everything off. So, I hope that that was helpful for you all. So, understanding stress in mothers fight, some of the things that you may experience are is irritability, anger, frustration, or feeling overwhelmed. Flight, you may withdraw, avoid asking for help, overwork yourselves, or feel emotionally disconnected. And freeze, remember, that's when you're feeling stuck. That's when you're feeling numb, stuck, unable to make decisions. And also you may be having trouble struggling to bond with the baby. And all of these things are happening and transpiring because your amygdala is offline and it is not calm. And therefore, there's like a domino effect with the fight and the freeze as well. So there are some influential variables as it pertains to chronic stress. ACEs is adverse childhood experiences and epigenetics. And I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of Dr. Nadine Burke, but she is a general surgeon from California. She actually is the reason that one of the reasons that ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, has gone mainstream. She talked about ACEs. People typically experience ACEs early in life, from ages 0 to 17 years old. And ACEs can be a divorced parent, incarceration, abuse and neglect. Those are adverse, those can, coupled over time, those can become adverse childhood experiences. What the research shows is when you experience so many adverse childhood experiences early in life, that can lead to chronic stress. Chronic stress, as we know, is directly connected to your physiological and your biology. And if you do not address chronic stress or toxic stress, then it can lead to unfortunate health comes, with like COPD and lung issues and obesity and all the different things. And so, Dr. Nadine Burke, again, there is a resource that I do provide about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and toxic stress. As someone who work in education, who's worked with youth basically since I was 14 years old. That is one of the reasons when we try and provide a safe and nurturing environment to the scholars or the students that are within our communities and in our district, because we understand that not all of our kids come from, comfortable homes, and there are certain things that they've experienced in life. And so that it is our responsibility when they come to us, when they come to our classroom, when they come within in our district, for us to ensure that we're providing them with safety so that their amygdala and all the other things can get calm so that they can access learning. Um, so experience as far as epigenetics, is experiences and environment is the experiences and environment can influence how our genes work without changing the DNA itself. So things like chronic stress, trauma, nutrition, sleep, exercise, love, support, and nurturing like relationships in our environment can help offset. Epigenetics is it's emerging research, and basically it says It's saying that some of the things that your mother experienced, which is chronic stress, there is research that shows, or emerging research that shows, it could be transferred onto your child. And so that's why it's critical that you really take care of yourself, getting your prenatal screenings and seeing your OBGYN and your therapist and all the things while you are with child, because we know, but based on some of the research, some of that, stress can be transferred to your child. Um, and we want to ensure that the mother's physical and emotional well-being during pregnancy is not influenced by chronic stress. So weathering is a term that was developed back in 1992 by Dr. Arlene T. Geronimus. And weathering is basically, it talks about exclusionary practices and discrimination and chronic stress and racism and other ongoing hardships and how they wear the body down over time. And there is research going back 3 decades by Dr. Arlene T. Geronimus that has really taken off, because we are seeing that there is disproportionality as it pertains to African American or Black women when it comes down to weathering and some of their experiences. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Um, because of weathering, which again, it's where basically it's just like a rock that wears over time, right? It weathers and it withers away. But one of the things that, again, the research is showing, because of weathering and some of particularly women of color, of African American women, is there is a high maternal mortality rate. Women are experiencing preterm birth, low birth weight, pregnancy complications, and also trouble with breastfeeding. And so, again, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, um, is toxic stress exposure early in life. And weathering is really talking about how our environment can have a significant effect on our health, no matter who you are. But as they really did some research, they found again that disproportionality that's happening in women of color. That's causing unfortunate outcomes. So why this matters. So your stress response with pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum, all of that really activates your stress. And when these things are unaddressed, again, it affects both maternal well-being and child development. As far as the biological response, normally when you are feeling overwhelmed, that's a biological response. But being feeling overwhelmed is not a sign of weakness. Um, and as far as the impact on children and babies, your emotional well-being, early support, secure attachment, healthy brain development, emotional regulation, and positive relationships, which I'll talk a little bit more about that. Dr. Nadine Burke talks about buffering and mitigating ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, can be preventable, right? And that is why we actually have, educational sessions like this. That's why in the community, myself and members that's part of Mental Health Matters, we have conversations in community forums where we are educating the community about, although you hear some of these statistics that are not so positive, as a community, there are things that we can do to ensure that we try and mitigate or buffer or eliminate some of the statistics that we are seeing for healthy development in babies and children. So there will be a few quotes here and there. Um, when a mother is under chronic stress, she's not failing. Her brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, survive. The goal is to help her move from survival mode back to a place where she feels safe, supported, and able to thrive. I know firsthand when you're feeling stressed, again, you can't access the thinking part of your brain, which is your prefrontal cortex, because that doesn't happen until you calm your amygdala, right? But when you're feeling stressed, sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. But the purpose, again, for today is for us to figure out how we can, utilize the tools and resources so that we can ensure that our amygdala is calm so that we can access the thinking part of our brain. So, some data and statistics, disproportionality and why maternal wellness matters. In the United States, the highest mortality rates among the U.S. is one of the highest, has one of the highest mortality rates among high income countries. The disparity persists regardless of income or education. Mental health conditions, including suicide and overdose, are among the leading cause of pregnancy related deaths. Um, Pregnancy related deaths can be preventable. More than 80% of pregnancy related deaths in the US are considered, um, again, preventable. So, again, some more statistics. This is mainly about women of color. And as you can see, that's just the reference, the CDC 2024 article. Severe maternal morbidity is what it found, particularly in women of color. According to the March of Dimes 2024, preterm birth, and I got to keep moving my cursor over preterm birth, low birth rates, and low breastfeeding. And as you can see, this research is recent. It's 2 years old. Postpartum depression and other maternal mental health conditions is another risk factor. And according to the CDC 2024 research, Black women are approximately 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. So again, wanted to provide some data because what we're seeing in our communities, local, statewide, nationwide, we know that there is a crisis. And I really do appreciate Miss Marie Boone Clark and Dr. Valencia Walker for affording the community and people across the world the opportunity to learn and be in a space such as this because it's definitely an area that needs to be talked about a lot more. And I'm just so glad that we are bringing awareness to this and that I am able to be a part of it. And this is just a quote from Dr. Nadine Burke Harris. The single most common, most preventable, and most treatable root cause of the entire burden of a chronic disease is adverse childhood experiences. So basically, what she's saying is, although you may have experienced some type of ACE or trauma, um, it is treatable and it is preventable if we continue to educate ourselves and put the supports and systems in place that is needed for our youth and families to survive. So, the framework from stress to safety and just some practical strategies. So, one of the strategies is for you to recognize, again, we've talked a little bit about your stress response, which is the fight, flight, or freeze. For you to recognize when you are feeling overwhelmed. Excuse me, because we know that when your emotional part of your brain, which is your amygdala, when it's feeling overwhelmed, you're just not going to make good choices. I want you all to take a moment to think about when you have been frustrated, how many of you have made great choices when you are frustrated? Now, I'm not going to ask you to put that in the chat. That could be confidential, but just think about the amount of times that, you've been in a frustrating situation. And, do we always make good choices? Do we always say the right things when we're frustrated? I know that I don't. So, so recognize when you're in fight, flight, or freeze. Are you becoming irritable? Are you avoiding people? Are you feeling numb? Are you feeling stuck? Really be in tune to, who you are or the individuals who you're working with as well. To our mothers, you don't have to do motherhood alone. I'm hoping that we have some fathers, some spouses, some caregivers, some partners, whoever on this call, because some as a mother, I'm gonna speak personally as well. Sometimes you feel like you're alone, and unfortunately, you can't switch shoes with the male because they wouldn't understand. But it can be lonely and it can be stressful. But to the mothers expecting or mothers who have had kids or parents who do have children, you do not have to feel alone. Build your village. And that could be family, that could be friends, your faith community, healthcare providers, doulas, therapists, support groups. Who is your village? You do not have to do this alone. Prioritizing rest is part of pregnancy and recovery. Sleep when possible. Accept help. Some of us let our pride and our stubbornness get in the way. I might be one of those people. But accept help. Give yourself permission to slow down. Um, at the rate that we're going, I don't think life will ever slow down anymore, right? I know this might be our new normal, but we can figure out and prioritize some different strategies as we get accustomed to the new normal, so that we can continue to stay healthy. Um, Mind, body, and medicine, or mind, body strategies, whatever that looks like. With Amina, we did some recentering, and we put our feet on the ground, and we did some grounding strategies before we started this training, which I really appreciated. And that, again, that was just a way for us to be in the moment, be present, calm our amygdala, get focused so that we can take intake this information into our hippocampus and then be able to utilize it using our prefrontal cortex after we leave here, right? So that might be deep breathing. It may be walking. It may be mindful eating. It may be dancing. There's a lot of history and about dancing and rituals. It may be prayer or meditation, journaling. There's a lot of different things. Figure out what works for you. What works for you may not work for the other person. And so, again, just utilizing some of those mindfulness techniques, and whatever works for you is something that is very critical. And it also just calms your entire central nervous system, and it relaxes your body, which is what you want in order to move forward and make good choices. Warning signs, seek help. Yeah, persistent sadness, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, difficult bonding with the baby, thoughts of harming yourself or baby. Those are all warning signs. Now, earlier we talked about anxiety and depression. Now, the thing about anxiety and depression, and I know we have some therapists and some counselors on this call, probably some physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists. When sadness and anxiety and depression, when those things persist, that means that you've taken your stress to another level. That means that you may need some medical help, and some medical help that requires the DSM-4, a possible assessment, diagnosis. Just know the warning signs. Know, journal. If you are a friend on this call, if you're a family member, caregiver, if you're paying attention to a woman that is pregnant or postpartum or things of that nature, if you're seeing ongoing sadness and anxiety and depression, then those are the moments where, okay, somebody needs to step in, because when it persists, then it really has taken it to another level. And then advocate. Trust your instincts. If something is wrong, ask questions, speak up, seek another opinion. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. It's not, I know that's easier said than done, but don't be afraid to be vulnerable. And so I have a few questions for you all. This is where I would love for you to be engaged in the chat. What support this helped you most during pregnancy or early parenting? And name one person or more than one person in your village that you would be able to go to, talk to, have a conversation. Let's see some responses in the chat, Amina.
All right. It looks like Cassandra mentioned that their sister is a support. Yvette's mother, Angelica's mother. Naleli mentioned she seeks support from her friends who are also experiencing the same things that she is. Omari says a supportive and accommodating husband,
Mm,
and my mom staying with me a week before delivering. Church,
okay,
hmm Some church members, friends. Someone mentioned their doula. I have a black doula and a black therapist that I can speak with and be a support. Mhm.
awesome.
Husbands are here, moms, best friends. Monica is a part of a group text with three of her longtime friends to ask for support along the way. My mom is my top village support. I love the group chats.
Yeah,
Mothers, sisters,
wonderful,
grandmothers, yes, friends.
awesome. So that makes me feel great that the people on this call, that you have a village. Your village is incredibly, incredibly important, and make sure you are utilizing your village because we all need help. We all need help. So community resources matter. I don't want to brag, but I am a part of several community groups. One in particular is Mental Health Matters. We Maternal health has been a focus for Mental Health Matters for several years now. Um, we're very fortunate in our community to have a lot of wonderful resources. Even though when you look at the disproportionate rate of maternal and infant deaths in the local community and in the throughout the state, particularly for African American women and women of color, they are not the outcomes that we would like to see. But what I will say is, over the last couple of years, there has been a tremendous community effort to eradicate some of the outcomes that we are seeing. And there has been a lot of progress that has been made. We have, speaking of community resources, and I'm going to be honest, like, I'm not naive to the fact that there are so many things happening in our world. And I think I need to keep it real with all the Medicaid cuts and the grants and all the things, because I know that is hitting every community that I could possibly think of in the worst way. And we know that with Medicaid and how, a lot of our women and our family members and our children utilize Medicaid as resources. But what I will say is, I am almost certain that there is some place in your community, whether it's the health department. Shout out to the Vanderburgh County Health Department. We have a pre to three program that is designed to reduce infant mortality and support families through free weekly home visits. It provides pregnant individuals and those with infants under 90 days old with client advocates, nursing support, and early childhood education materials until the child is 3 years old. So that is I believe every community has a health department, right? That's a place where you can go. With me working in education for the public school system, we work hand in hand with the pre to three department because most of those children end up coming to us for preschool. And so, again, there's that community collaboration that's happening on a regular basis. Pre to three is also doing an amazing job in our community with helping to bring awareness and working with so many different families from so many different cultural backgrounds. One person in particular, her name is Lakeisha, was Roach, but she's married now. Lakeisha Maxwell. She's actually a social worker for Pre to Three. And I'm not sure if she's on this call, but I adore her and she does amazing work. And she's her and her entire team.
She's
And
here. I
so,
see her name in the chat. She's active in the
oh,
chat.
awesome.
I see you, Miss
Um,
Maxwell.
hey, but pre to three, we have a immigrant welcome and resource center. We know, like, when you think about disproportionality, we're seeing a lot of disproportionality that's happening in with our Haitian families, our Hispanic families, our Black families. And the immigrant welcome and resource center, they're doing baby showers and all the different things. There are so many different community resources here, and I am really hoping that that is the same for you and your community as well. Reach out to your physicians, your doctors, your nurses, your case managers. But again, there is help for you all in your community somewhere. So please make sure you seek it out. And there are, again, different community organizations that I'm a part of. So very, very grateful to be in this community that I'm in and to see the work that's happening, particularly with maternal health. And it is working. It is working, and there has been improvement. And I am hoping and wishing for the same for everyone else on this call. And there are some resources that Amina will provide you all as well. I couldn't, I'm almost done. I couldn't go without telling you about school resources. Um, all of our schools have a social worker and a counselor in every single school. And I know that that is not always the case, especially for rural schools. But there is a preferred person at your school. It may be the janitor, it may be the principal, it may be a paraprofessional, it may be a teacher, it may be whoever. But there are resources in your school, parents, caregivers on this call. There is someone there to help you because, again, as I talked about earlier, when there is stress that's happening at home, we are seeing the same thing happen with the siblings. If there's a newborn baby at home, if and other variables are going into play, we are seeing the children come to school and they may be struggling, dysregulated, which again leads to them not focusing, so on and so forth. And so there are resources in the school that we have to support all of our children, all of our families. So make sure you are utilizing those resources in your school as well, because again, we know that a lot of you have children that are in school, and we want that to be a positive experience. And also, parents, caregivers, mothers, the social workers are not just there to help the children in the school. We're also there to help you, your husband, your spouses, your partners. We're there to help everyone. So make sure you are utilizing the school resources. They matter, and they are there to help support you all as well. And again, just a few more quotes. A healthy mother benefits the whole family. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. Asking for help is a strength and not a weakness. And then I saved this for last. Where a mother lives, the support she receives, and the care she experiences should never determine whether she survives pregnancy or childbirth. It doesn't matter where you live, where you come from. All women, all families deserve the same adequate health care access and opportunities. And that is one of the things here in our local community that we recognize and that we are also trying to help eradicate so that all women and children have access to high quality health care. So with that being said, Amina, I will open it up for Q&A because I can get real passionate, y'all. So,
Yes. Thank you, Trinisha, for this informative presentation. My apologies. I live in New York City, and it just so happened I have fire trucks outside my window. So now I'm competing with the fire trucks. But bear with me. Please feel free, everyone, if you have any questions for Dr. Brooks, feel free to put it in the chat.
Or any takeaways or aha moments. Yeah.
Mhm. I do have a question while we're waiting for some folks in the chat to um to type in their question. Um, so about chronic stress, I know in the very beginning when it was you, Marie, and I chatting, right? It was mentioned that programs like this is available and, it's important to get the word out so that people can know that these are resources available that they can benefit from and that they need, but I often think about individuals who are dealing with chronic stress, people who have lived with stress for so long that it feels normal, right?
Hmm.
How can someone recognize when they're functioning from chronic survival mode rather than true well-being?
So, and I believe Dr. Stratton might be on the call. He's a medical physician. What I would encourage and I'm going to put myself in the shoes of that question. I would really be encouraging everyone to get their annual checkup, whether you are male, female, teenager, but your annual checkups are super important. And at your annual checkups, that is where you're able to have conversations with your physician and or with the social worker. And those conversations can lead to referrals and recommendations. And so, at your annual checkup, actually, I just got some blood work. What's today? Yesterday. And I get my results back on Thursday. And so your annual check, and no, people don't like to do that because I don't like to do it. But your annual checkups, they matter, and I get to see someone in person on Thursday and have a conversation, and they're going to ask me evaluative questions about my well-being. And so that's one of the things that I would say is, make sure you're taking care of your physical health, getting your annual checkups, and recognizing some of the signs of stress that I talked about, recognizing when you are feeling dysregulated, recognizing when your amygdala, your emotional part of your brain is if it's always stressed and in overdrive, and if you're seeing things that are consistent, then that may be a sign that you may need to get some help. So,
Thank you for answering that, Dr. Brooks. You're right. Going
welcome.
to the doctor and getting those panels read, the numbers don't lie. Our bodies
Hmm.
give us those signs and those warning signs, but sometimes we ignore them.
Yeah.
Sometimes we put it off until later. But if you
Hmm.
stay connected with your PCP and get your workups, that information will reveal what you're dealing with for sure. I'm gonna check in with the chat to see if anybody's wrote anything. Ashley is thankful for the share about the parts of the brain and how calming the amygdala allows you to access your wait, I'm reading it wrong, right? So she's grateful for the share about the parts of the brain and how calming the amygdala allows you to access your prefrontal cortex, right? I think in the chat we were chatting about like how it's necessary to get to your baseline. You need to be at
Hmm.
your baseline in order to make the best decisions. Ashley says that being in a safe space physically and mental is key to being able to think clearly. How do you recommend teaching this to families with varying education levels?
Well, great question and great insight. Ashley was paying attention. Um, I'm going to leave my contact information, but one of the things that I do is I do group sessions where mind, body, and medicine group sessions. And, you don't have to have a certain level of expertise, but it's evidence-based, interactive, experiential activities and things that you can do. And Yeah, anybody can do it. And so there is the Center for Mind, Body, and Medicine if you wanted to research it. There are some resources on my website as well. But yes, people do have varying degrees of cognitive abilities, physical abilities. But you can, be in a wheelchair, or you can be sitting, or everybody can benefit from doing different exercises, no matter what your limitations are. So,
Mm. Okay, I'm gonna put that in the chat, the Center for Mind, Body, Medicine. All right. Um, it was also mentioned, there was a comment, having healthcare providers that we can trust, that can see, that can hear us is really important. And I recommend vetting your healthcare providers, right? Because you need to feel safe with your healthcare providers as well. But we know historically our relationship with the healthcare system is damaged. And
yeah.
so it's really important to find and locate a healthcare provider that you can trust, and you can do that by finding some helpful strategies to vet your provider to make sure that they are the right fit, that your philosophy and your healthcare provider's philosophy are in alignment for your healthcare. All right, let's see what else do we have in the chat. Important to realize your physical can affect your mental and vice versa. Yep, annual checkups are essential. Some more echoes of the importance of annual checkups. Stephanie is saying that from a global perspective, are there any countries prioritizing providing safe spaces for their communities to de-escalate stress? And if so, what ideas have you incorporated into your practice?
Um, I don't want to speak to other countries, but what I can speak to is being an advanced practitioner in mind, body, and medicine, and really helping families and youth and organizations as people who work in my school district and individuals who I work with, helping them to understand their bodies and their stress responses, and providing them with evidence-based tools and different things that they can do to help them get back to their baseline. Um, so yeah.
And someone also mentioned in the chat how the importance of dental care. Absolutely. Um, we have some info that's being shared across England. The National Health Service, NHS, partners with the local charities and community organizations to operate crisis cafes, safe havens, and recovery cafes. These welcoming, non-clinical spaces provide immediate support for individuals experiencing anxiety, overwhelming stress, panic, loneliness, or other mental health challenges. So England seems like they have a good thing going on over there.
That does. That sounds great. And one of the things that we try and do with Mental Health Matters is um, we know about the historical complications with relationships and stress, and so we try and provide a culturally responsive, trauma-informed space. Maybe something similar to England where people can come and not feel like they have to go, they're at a physician's office, or, they're with their therapist or their social worker, even though we have people on standby and experts that have those capabilities or have those credentials. But what we try and do is provide a non-judgmental, culturally responsive space where people can come at least twice a year, so that they can feel safe, and we just have conversations. This past May, we actually had every May. We just celebrated our 5th year, and we just had during Mental Health Awareness Month. One of the topics were maternal and grief, and we had a really good turnout again because people don't feel pressured. And it's us just creating one of the things that's happening in the local community. There's a lot of things happening, but us creating that non-clinical space so that people can come and just be themselves. So,
All right, we're at time, but I'm noticing the chat. There's speaking my language in the chat. There's the importance of encouraging clients and patients to advocate for themselves, bringing advocates with you to help you advocate. As you know, oftentimes one bad experience can become barriers to getting continued care. Someone also mentioned that the conversation regulation and co-regulation of emotions is imperative and begins before the age of 3. Yes, and
hmm
remember the little ones are watching us, and so I
yeah,
think if we learn how to manage and regulate our nervous system, um, chances are that our little ones will follow suit and adapt those same skills. Thank
yeah.
you all for joining. As we come to a close, I'd like to sincerely thank you, Dr. Brooks, for
hmm
sharing your wisdom, your expertise, and the practical tools with us this evening. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank
Yeah,
you
these
to
are just
every
some resources for everyone. I believe you put these in the chat, or they're going to be shared out, correct? The resources.
I I'm not so sure. I did share some of the links in the chat.
Okay.
Yes, we
Or
will
I know.
share all of Dr. Brooks's resources with the recording tomorrow. And then do join us. We have How Mama Got Her Groove Back tomorrow. We have a full, thank you, Dr. Brooks. We have a full series. Join us tomorrow for How Mama Got Her Groove Back, Your Sexuality After Pregnancy. And then we've got a full week next week. And then the official Black Maternal Mental Health Week starts on the 19th, and we hope you'll join us, join the series next week. We've got an entire week of events. On Saturday, we have a virtual yoga session with a brilliant young woman. So bring your yoga mat, and she'll take us through some events on Saturday. So thank you, Dr. Trinisia. This was wonderful. And we'll have the recording available for you. We'll have the resources as well as the link to Dr. Burke Harris's book that she mentioned. And so wonderful to see so many Evansville folk. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you.
guys so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Brooks. We hope we can get you back again for a part two. There were so many questions that we didn't get a chance to cover with you.
I'm sorry.
No, no, it went far too fast. We'll just have to have you back. Maybe once every quarter, we can talk you into coming back.
Okay, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. So it's been a
Thank you guys.
pleasure.
Have a good night.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.